everyone. If you were watching this, thank you for watching the replay. I'm going to kind of go over some questions and answers live, and if anyone asks them in the chat, then I will respond, but if not, I have some notes that I'm going to go through. But to just kind of set the tone for this discussion today, figured I would smudge to kind of cleanse the air. I get a little bit nervous when doing lives and whenever I talk about spiritual practices, because it's not been that long that I've been like open about my spiritual practices. So yeah, I still have self-esteem like building in that sense. Okay, so let's just smudge all of those sticky thoughts from the past away and clear all of my communication so that it's crystal clear to you. Okay, I'm just going to smudge this camera so that whatever you hear is free of negativity. I have like a bunch of stuff on my desk, so I think I'm going to like show you really quick kind of the spread of things that I put together to talk about, because I've been wanting to talk about so many of these things for so long and I just didn't know where to begin. And then I realized today, like, I think that is the problem with spiritual practices. It's like sometimes we don't even know where to begin, so we just don't do anything. And so I figured I'd show you kind of the things I'm going to go over, and then that way you can kind of sense out like if you would be interested in any of it or not. And if you're not, then that's okay. You can, you know, continue scrolling. So I think this will let me. All right, so here's my desk. Here's what we got going on. There's a lot of little goodies that I figured we can discuss. So it's hard to show you on the front-facing camera, so I figured I would show you here. Oh yeah, and I just took a shower and my hair was like way too wet to just like let it down, and I was like, you know what? Anyone who's watching this is not going to judge me for having my hair up in this thing. I don't even know what it's called. It's a t-shirt, by the way. My friend back in the day told me about how like t-shirt material is a lot more gentle on your hair than towels, and I've always had a hair shirt ever since then. So random freebie for you. Like, I don't know if that's considered a beauty thing. I'm not really a beauty guru, but she is, so I trusted her. Okay, so I'm going to start with the questions that I have gotten from people, either that I know or on Instagram that maybe I don't know, and go over those first, and then because we'll probably have time to go over some more details and like things that I haven't specifically been asked for, but I know that I would have wanted to know if I was, you know, following somebody that did similar practices that I'm interested in. I hope that makes sense, because yeah, a lot of times like radio silence like on the other end, and I know that like sometimes you don't know what to ask, so I kind of thought of ideas of how we could kick this off. I don't know what I'm going to call this series, but maybe something about intuition, because that is pretty much my practice. I just do everything intuitively. So, okay, yeah, actually let's start with what do I mean by intuition practices? I mean like things that your spirit inside you, outside of you, wherever you think your spirit is, kind of guide you to do, and that you feel helps connect you to that part of your life. So there's so many facets in life, and we have to tend to each area in our life, like relationships, our family, our health, our children, and our creative projects, our work, our finances. Like there's so many different things, and spirituality is one of those different things. Now, my life is I feel like I have a blanket of spirituality on top of everything that I do, and I think that has to do with my life path number. I'm an 8, I feel like they're very like spiritual lives. And I'm also a Scorpio, and I really like knowing the depths of everything. So a lot of times when you come down to the like base of all parts of life, it all has to do with like the source of life itself, right? So that's why I feel like spirituality is linked to each of those things, but there is a practice of like keeping your spirit high. So that's what I'm talking about today. I am not religious, to be honest. Like, if you are curious, I was raised in a Catholic church, went to Catholic school my entire life through high school, and I think that did help form a respect and appreciation for like continued effort. That's probably a topic for a whole other video some other day, not right now. But I do feel like it helped establish a lot of my like momentum, we'll call it, to get me into a lot of these practices. So I promised you I would go over these questions first. Okay, so like I get this question a lot actually, and it's like, how do you make moon water? Okay, this is like just what I do, and I have gone through a few different versions of making moon water over time. So maybe I'll like go over like why I changed and what I started with. So when I first started making moon water, I guess it was actually because I used to charge my crystals just on a windowsill under the moonlight. Then I read somewhere, I don't remember where, that crystals need like cleansed with like water, not just the moonlight. So like if you put them into the water, then that cleanses them more. I don't know the science, so you might want to look that up. But that's when I started incorporating water into that moon ritual. Now I just put it out into the, usually I'll make full moon water. Sometimes I will make new moon water. Full moon water I usually make for manifesting purposes and really like absorbing the very potent, bright energy of a full moon. I'll take a jar that I have, I'll show you in a second, and I'll put my crystals in it. Now, I did that for like a few years, and that's pretty much exactly what I still do. But now I also added that I have a lot of essential oils, and I use essential oils intuitively as well as just very everyday, like practically. So I noticed that I had all these like just about empty bottles that still had remnants of plant oil inside of the bottle, and I would clean them, I guess would be the word, or like get the rest of the oil out by soaking them in water to then put into my diffuser. And I realized, like, wait, I could totally do that with my moon water jug, and that will just be like a double whammy. So this is just something I've intuitively put together. I have no idea like if it messes something up esoterically, but I don't really care because like it feels right to me. So regular moon water, most people just put crystals in, and then I've started adding my essential oil bottles to really infuse them. Yeah, I kind of think of it like flavored water, like I'm infusing my crystals with those oils too. And usually I like try to take the bottles and like choose them intentionally of like, you know, this one. So here's my jar. It used to be a kombucha jar, so it still has that sticker because I haven't taken it off, but it does have a little thermometer thing, so that's kind of cool. But this jar is what I use because I think I had a different one and it might have broken. I don't remember exactly what happened to my other one. And at the bottom, there's crystals in here. It's been a busy 2 weeks, and I've honestly forgotten to take them out, so they're probably going to feel a little bit slimy, but that's okay. And I have like abundance oil jar that is in here, and I really wanted to like absorb as much of that as possible. So since I'm starting a new job like Monday, I needed that, you know, momentum forward. So abundance with my crystals, and I use it for my diffuser water. Like I've got it in this little diffuser right here, even going right now. That's how I personally make moon water. If you don't have essential oils put in there, then just put your crystals in there. But the one other thing that I learned recently, because I got this selenite wand, and I read that selenite, you're not supposed to put it in water because it can dissolve. Now, I have no idea how fast it would dissolve if you were to put it in water. I'm not going to test it because I kind of like this. And it doesn't need cleansed. So it doesn't need cleansed anyways. There's a few different crystals that don't need cleansed, and selenite is one of them. So you don't need to put it in the water because it's already, it just, you know, rebalance that energy automatically. But now I do try to make sure of which crystals I am putting in my water, that they can be dissolved in water. And if they can't, then you might just cleanse them by smudging or something like that. Okay. If you have more questions about that, then put them in the comments and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Next, okay, singing bowls. Oh yeah, I meant to grab my singing bowl. Let me grab that. Okay, so someone asked about singing bowls. Singing bowls, there's a bunch of different types. I really like singing bowls. It's an expensive spiritual practice, I will say, like, because each bowl is, I don't know, it's just like they're a much larger item to have. So, for example, I have this box that one of my followers, back when I was doing a lot of yoga challenges back in the day, she sent me this because she knew how much I really liked crystal bowl healing sessions. And so she sent me this throat chakra singing bowl. It's so cool. It's very small, which I actually really like that it's this small because I can take it places. Like I've actually taken it to yoga classes before and played it. Okay, here's the thing I don't know. It comes with this little pad, and Matt told me that I'm supposed to play it on the pad. But I don't know. I've always like just played it on my hand, so that's a question I don't have an answer for. But as far as playing it, so let's do it with the pad. It comes with a little, I don't know what it's called, dongle. That's the word I'm going to call it. And you can gently tap it on one side. You can already hear. Or, like, you can just keep doing that over and over, intuitively, at your own pace, kind of like a drum almost. And then you can tap it, and you can press the dongle to the side and roll it around the side, just gently rubbing it against the side. And it'll get louder and louder. I'm not going to go any further because I think I might have just woken up the dog next door. I think I heard it barking or like roughing. So that's how you would play most singing bowls. This one is metal, as you can kind of see. Yep, okay. So you can see it's shiny. So this is a Tibetan singing bowl, and they are made of, I'm going to say brass. I don't actually even remember exactly what type of metal it is, but this is a metal type of sound, a metallic sound. Other singing bowls that you can get are crystal. Those are angelic sounding, but you play them the same way. You can tap them on the sides, and then you can brush them around. One of my teachers from Instagram actually has a singing bowl like course and community. So if you are into singing bowls and wish that you knew more about them, let me know and I can just send you her handle and you could go and check her out. So that's kind of a little bit on singing bowls. There's a lot of different sound healing instruments, and singing bowls is just one of them. So just keep that in mind, that if you are like, ooh, I'm really drawn to a singing bowl, but like, you know, maybe one of these, I don't know exactly how much, but maybe like in the $30 range or so, like maybe that's not something that you're sure if you want to invest in right away. But bells are like the most basic form of sound healing pieces that you can get. Like I almost brought in a bell that my dad had gotten me like years and years and years ago. It's just this little tiny ding, 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 ding. But that is like, that can really fine tune the energy of a space. So I definitely recommend getting a bell or just finding other smaller instruments at a metaphysical store. There's usually tons. Eventually I would love to have a happy drum. If you've never heard one of those, just type in HAPI drum. They sound really cool. Okay. Next, past lives. I don't really know much about past lives, to be honest. The things that I know are that I feel like I've already had many past lives in this one human lifetime. So it seems like from the time that I am right now to the time that I was a baby, I've had so many different versions of life that like I start to even forget some of my life, you know, when I was a kid or when I was in high school. Like it's like those are already starting to like diminish. So I cannot even imagine remembering past lives from like before this like cycle of out of the womb. So I don't know much about it, but I am very intrigued by that concept. And the reason I'm actually even bringing it up at all is because I did find a crystal at a store in Hendersonville, if you're in this area, and it is called a record keeper. So that's a nice little reflection spot. Okay, so record keeper, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. Oh, kind of. I don't know if you can see how it has like triangles on the surface. So any crystal with a triangle is apparently considered a record keeper. So I use this to practice, I forgot what it's called. Akashic records. So there's a thing called Akashic records. Don't ask me how to spell it, but if you say it to your Google search, then it will know how to search it. Where you can access information like intentions and let's just call it information from like anyone who allows you, and I would imagine that past life information may be in that too. So maybe look up Akashic records if you are interested in about past life regression. I have not accessed Akashic records yet, and I believe like that you have to believe that you can before that happens. So this is like a tool that I picked up to aid me, and I keep it in my pillow. Matt makes fun of me because I have rocks in my pillow, and I like hold it whenever I'm like sleeping, and I'm like, oh yes, okay, here's my record keeping stone, like please allow me to access Akashic records. But I haven't tried in a long time, so it's something you have to like consistently do, which kind of connects to the next thing, lucid dreaming. I would say like lucid dreaming I've accidentally done a few times, like, but it's not very common that I intentionally do it. There's a YouTube guy, I forgot his name, but I learned a lot about lucid dreaming from him, and the main thing that I remembered is that Like, you have to, like, allow yourself to sleep, and if you can, set an alarm to, like, wake your mind up at a certain time, like a couple hours after you fall asleep. And then when you wake up, then you tell yourself, like, okay, I'm going to let my body go back to sleep, but I'm going to keep my mind alert. And then lucid dream. So lucid dreaming is whenever you know that you're dreaming and you can, like, kind of control the plot of your dream. So that was one trick. And then the other trick is that to know if you're lucid dreaming, because, like, it's going to be hard to tell, like, okay, did I stay awake and am I dreaming and knowing that I'm dreaming, or am I awake and this is, like, you know, my day, like that I woke up into my day and I'm just doing my normal thing. And that is by having a totem. So watch Inception, and that will explain everything about totems and lucid dreaming. And so I used to wear this necklace all the time. You may have seen it if you've been here a long time. And this is a totem. I'm telling you only because I don't wear it anymore. Otherwise, I don't think you're supposed to tell people what your totem is. So yeah, the cat's out of the bag on that one. Okay, so on a totem, the purpose of it is that it's something that you have access to only, that no other person knows, like, that touches it, and you would know how it feels. So around my neck, I would know exactly how this necklace piece felt on my neck. And in my lucid dream, I could reach down and grab it and say, okay, is this my necklace? Yes or no? And if it is, then I think that meant that you're awake. But if it's like something's off, then it's probably that you're dreaming. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I forgot to look that part up. But yeah, so look up totem use in lucid dreaming, and that will help you get started too. Okay. Those are the questions I had. Again, I forgot this thing doesn't give me a timer, so I have no idea how long I've been talking, and that is a dangerous concept. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb, so I just remember. Okay, now let's just go through some of these questions, because I collected all these things to show you, and, you know, I'm kind of excited and kind of feeling pumped about this. But first I need to drink some water, because I think the allergy season is actually affecting me this year, since I'm actually experiencing seasons for the first time. Yeah. All right. So here's the questions I figured if you're watching this video, maybe you would be interested in. So number one, how did you get started? Like, that's a good starting point, right? So I told you how I grew up Catholic. I was in Catholic school, so, like, everything had to do with religion. Like, we prayed before every class, and, like, everything was about religion, which is different than spirituality, but they're similar, right? So that would be, like, how I really got started. But then, like, intentionally, like, my choice of spiritual practices got started probably not until after college. Yeah. I was not very spiritual during college. I think I just took a break, let it all kind of, like, wash away, and, like, felt out, like, who am I? Like, because I had, you know, you're a kid. You're told who you are. It was the first time of being like, I don't even know what I want to do. So after college, I had a very big spiritual awakening after, well, let's say, I think really I could say that my spiritual journey and practice began when I started pole dancing. That sounds very bizarre, but especially as a Scorpio, like, dance is so spiritual in its roots. So that became, like, a practice that I would do, like, 3 times a week. Like, I went religiously. And that was very, like, spiritual practice for, like, my physical body, and for a lot of, like, trauma, and for so many things. Okay, moving on. But then I but I didn't really identify that as like spiritual back then. So whenever I like knew I was doing something spiritual, that would have been after pole dancing, when I had to close my studio and I became super freaking depressed. Like, because it was like losing my first child. Like, essentially my studio was my first child and it's not even around anymore. So that sucks, especially if you know my TTC journey right now. So when I lost my studio, I moved into a she shed, essentially, in my mom's backyard. I needed help. So I started finding practices. And I feel like I brought something. Oh, I forgot to talk about this on the dreams. Crap. If you're also into dream stuff, I'll definitely recommend this book, The Secret Language of Signs. Because usually dreams are full of symbolism. So like I keep this by my bed. I'll try to make a note of this in the description in case you already checked out. But this is my go-to book for dreams, and then I have a journal. Okay. I don't think I brought anything. Oh, actually, so the singing bowl is from back in that time because I started doing yoga because I didn't have a studio anymore and it was really difficult to pole dance for multiple situations. So yoga became a spiritual practice. I still practice it when it feels right. I don't practice it regularly anymore, but singing bowls are kind of, I guess they're like kind of tied together. Like, I don't really think that they're in the same category, but I guess just a lot of yoga studios these days have singing bowls, so that must be why. And then I started getting crystals. So for example, oops, this one. This bracelet is from like my original spiritual journey. I feel like you can't really see the colors very well. Oh, there you go. From a company called Will to Wow. And I won it doing like a yoga challenge or something, but it's very like spiritual energy crystals. Gosh, I don't know how to word a lot of this stuff. So that's why I put it on. And then, yeah, that was actually from the beginning of my spiritual practice and like really following my intuition of like, what do I need to like get out of my little hole of depression. And then so many other things like meditation, mantras, affirmations, mudras. I could probably go on for like another 10 minutes. I will pause because I don't really do a lot of those initial things anymore. They are like kind of like practices that I do like for specific purposes when I specifically need them, but they're not like my main focus anymore. And I think it's just because my mind is unfortunately bored a lot of times, and I'm like, okay, I already read about this. Like I'm like halfway through this giant yoga book that I was like supposed to read for my yoga teacher training. I never finished it. I don't know if I ever will because it's just kind of like the energy has died, and that's something. Oh, I already went to the second question. What practices did I first try and which do I still do? I already answered that. And then the next question I had written down is like, what do you wish you knew back then? And what I was going to say is that what I wish I knew back then is that it's okay if things stop resonating with you. And it's okay to just do what feels right. I remember I had a really hard time with that whenever I just like identified as this yogi. Like that's all I had ended up knowing myself as after I closed my studio. And it became like an attachment that no longer served me. So I thought, oh, people aren't going to understand me anymore. Like all these people that I was connected to, like they only know me for yoga. And like if I'm into other stuff, like what are they going to think? And you know what? That was mostly true. I don't really talk to any of those people anymore. It's very rare I see a face on here from that time, even though if you scroll down to my posts, you will see a crap load of yoga pictures. That's all I used to post on here. So I had a hard time accepting that, but then once I did, then so many new things came in, and I was like really excited and interested in life again. So that's what I wish I knew back then, is that, yeah, like you'll probably have practices that you do today that you won't do like next year, and that's okay, because there's so many paths to the same destination. So just keep that in mind. If you are beginning your path, just know that it might not be there forever and that it's okay. Just enjoy it while it lasts. Okay. And like also like know that it's okay to let go of spiritual things. Like I've recently started letting go of some of like my decks, and I have not let go of any crystals before, but that's probably soon. Like that singing bowl, I don't know. I still use it. I don't know. Like there's certain things that you just have to like ask, like, is this in tune with my heart anymore? Yes or no? And then that will help you know if you should let it go or not. All right. How do you find ideas or inspiration for ideas? Okay, so like, yeah. So say you're like, you already had some practices, but they're not resonating with you. How do you know to like what to do next? I love books. Like books are super helpful. Right now, I got this book from someone who was moving, and she gave it to me. Women Who Run with the Wolves. Like essentially it is every witch's favorite book. I just barely scratched the surface so far, but excited about that. And I have crap loads of books on other stuff, and so I just find books that look interesting, and I'm like, wow, I've never heard of that before. I should read that. Like I have a book about runes. That is taking me a long time to read, but I've got my rune set, so maybe that will encourage me to do it now. And then I wrote some stuff down. Okay, Facebook groups. There's like a lot of good Facebook groups for any type of spiritual practice that you're wanting. Like I was in tons of yoga Facebook groups, and also like hashtags. Just look up any hashtag of anything that you're interested in, and you will find your people. Metaphysical stores. So depending on the type of spiritual practices, but actually no, I think metaphysical stores usually cover like every spiritual practice. Like there is like Egyptian stuff, there is Christian stuff, there is pagan stuff, there is Hindu stuff. Like it is usually most metaphysical stores will have all spiritual practice like things. So if you're not sure what you want, go to one of those and just like trust your whatever direction you are set in that store. Like it's gonna guide you to. Okay, I guess it paused. I don't know why. Next, books and okay, yes, trusting your intuition. Last question. So what are your most common practices now? Which is why I brought all my stuff out to show you. So I try to set an intention daily. Does it happen every day? No, because I'm not a morning person, and that's usually whenever you want to do that kind of thing. So I attempt to intentionally put a certain type of energy out there into the world every day, and to attract a certain type of energy to me. So I do that first off by like thinking it and like willing it. Then by smudging, like every time that I feel like the energy that's around me, like just how I'm feeling, like is not aligned with that intention, then I clear it by smudging. So if you've never smudged, I smudged earlier with this sage bundle. It's almost done and almost time for another one. It's also almost time for another Palo Santo, but a little stick of Palo Santo. And I just like have this little ashtray that is cute to catch all of the ashes that I'm about to wipe all over my floor. Okay. And then I also use, so after clearing the energy with smudging, then I attract the energy and like remind myself of the energy that I want to put out there by applying essential oils. So there's a few that I love to use for things like this, and I picked two. There's really a lot, but Envision is one. So I put this on my third eye, which is right here. Whenever I'm like dreaming and like making vision for my future. And then Sacred Mountain is my other favorite. It smells like woods, like, yeah, I feel like it just smells like woodsy, like enchanted woods. And I'll put this sometimes like on my root chakra. I've put it all over the place, and I especially diffuse it because it just like kind of brings me back down to earth. So those are two. There's a lot. Maybe I'll do another video on like spiritual essential oils or something. Another common practice that I do is monthly manifesting with a journal. So I found this journal from Target a year or two ago, and I love it. It's one of my favorite journals actually, because there's only 2 pages that the whole book is, and the first page is goal setting, has a main goal and then 3 mini goals, and then it has action items. So that's what I do on a full moon. I will write down like, what is my main goal, like what do I see like formulating, like being attracted to, and like what are like mini steps along that month that would mean like I'm kind of on that way to that goal. And then I write down all the actions that I know I need to take to like build up that momentum and get there. And then I do that on the new moon I set the goal, and then full moon I do the second page, which has like a reflection page of like what went well, what can I do better, and notes. And I use that as like a wrap up, like on the new moon is a good time to like start something new, so begin the process. So that's where you're like kind of gathering your ideas and thinking of like allowing your mind to like tell you like, okay, this is where you want to go. Okay, these are all the things that I can see that you would need to do to make that happen, like to allow that to happen. So that's over the first 2 weeks of a cycle. And then on a full moon, it's a very, very strong time for manifesting and for like bulldozing like any blockages that you have, because you're really like into it by then. So by going over like, okay, how's it going? Like what's going well? And then like what kind of roadblocks are we hitting? That allows you to like be like, okay, these are the things that we need to like clear and release in order to get to that goal by the time that it's time for something else new at the next new moon. So I really love using this thing. Next. I talked about charging crystals, and with my moon water. I also will put my bracelets in there whenever I feel like I need to. Like I don't do them every time. I just do that sometimes. This bracelet is howlite, and it's the same thing on my necklace. And I do use crystals most days for very like harnessing certain types of energy, much like that essential oil practice. So like this one helps with like prevent overthinking, which I wanted to do when doing this video, because I didn't want to just be up in my head. I wanted to like really speak from my heart of like, what do I do and like what guided me. So we talked about charging crystals. I usually charge it on the full moon. Meditating, I try to meditate. My mind is pretty busy, and I could sit in silence more. Let's just say that. But when I do meditate, something that does help me is asking for guidance, much like a prayer, but with divination tools. So if you don't know what divination tools are, it's essentially a way to speak to your inner voice, to your angel, to your intuition, and really like your subconscious too, of like what's going on, like, you know, why are certain things in your life going a certain way, because you really know everything about yourself, even if you think you might not. And that's kind of a big burden, like in a way, because you are fully responsible for yourself and for your life. And when you accept that, then you're like, oh dang, okay, I need to like get my crap together, and I need to like make some changes. So divination tools allow you to kind of like have a conversation with yourself. Think of it like this, like think of divination tools kind of like Freudian slips. Freudian slips is like when you say something and it like this, you say something that you thought was going to sound one way, and then you realize you included words that are almost like convicting of a certain mindset that you didn't realize that you're going to let out whenever you say it. I'm doing a horrible job at describing this, but just look up a Freudian slip. You probably already know what it means, but like, you know, like girls like joke around with each other like, I hate you. You made it sound like it was a joke, but like, do you really hate that person? Maybe a little bit. Some there's better ones out there, but I always think of like the kernel of truth idea too. Matthew repeats that to me all the time because Matthew McConaughey said it. But you know, a lot of times there's kernels of truth in things that we say that we are like, oh, whoops, I didn't mean that, but you're like, you might have, and you just don't want them to realize you know that you meant that. So divination is like that. It's like saying like, okay, like this is what I think my life is, and I think that's going on in my world, and then the divination tools are like, this is what you're really feeling, but you're just not allowing yourself to feel it. So it can be very eye-opening and reflective. Okay, so divination tools that I use, I really love this Chrysalis Tarot deck because it called to me and I intuitively picked it at a little metaphysical shop, and it's been like amazing. Like I have this little picture frame holder on my desk, and I like will pick a card most moon cycles and I will put it in here, and like right now I have this one sitting here. So I highly recommend having a little display thing for cards that you choose if you do divination. And then like I said, I just got this rune deck, rune bag of runes. And runes are, it could be crystals, it could be pieces of stone or wood, so many different ways of putting runes, but they have the rune symbols on them. I really like that these are amethyst and that they have gold engravings. Okay. And so like, well, let's actually take these three because usually you pull runes in threes. So if we were to pull that, it comes with a little scroll, so that's kind of cool. I have the book. Also, I have two books actually, but let's do, so this one that looks kind of like an R. I actually don't have all of them memorized. Is Rido? As for travel, change, destiny, relocation, and journey. Then the other one I chose was this, which okay, that's Durisaz, which is adversity, rigor, harm, introspection, and conflicts. That's funny because I literally had just said introspection and that it would call out kind of call you out on your shit, so that's exactly what I meant. And then this one that looks like an eye is Isa, which is symbolisms of inactivity, stagnation, reflection, and withdrawal. So it favors a time to turn inward and seek clarity. Wow. Like, those are the exact things I was talking about whenever I pulled those. So that's an example. And like, you might interpret that as something totally different. And that's why, like, it's a practice of knowing yourself. Like, yeah. Same, even whenever other people read cards for you, it has everything to do with your interpretation of what is given to you. All right. I really love divination tools, and I feel like they have a bad rap. I don't even know why. And I just feel like they need to be, like, saved from that history. Okay. Other things that I do are, attending circles with women to, one, celebrate just like life, and also to learn. So if you've never attended a circle, it can be very fun. And lately there's online circles and in-person circles. There's one group that is nationwide called the Wild Women Sisterhood. That's the first group that I've ever been part of, and I have really enjoyed it. And you can learn all sorts of different spiritual practices through circle. Paying attention to and loving nature. That is like very intuitive practice of mine. You see, I go out into nature, I explore, and I just try to appreciate nature and like remember that I am like part of it. Like, it is a bigger part of us. So that's another practice that is kind of like a whole lifestyle. Following astrology forecasts like the weather. So a lot of people who don't follow astrology, like, feel like they assume that it's like predicting future. Which, I mean, I guess in a way, like, it's like predicting future, just like your weatherman predicts the future by saying it's probably going to storm tomorrow. Like, it's because the energy in the air from different things moving around cause celestial weather patterns that you can predict. So yeah, I think of it that way. So if you've never thought of like looking at astrology before, if you think of it like, oh, I check the weather to make sure I'm not going to get rained on tomorrow, it's the same thing. Which, by the way, I have a message group on here on Instagram for astrology updates that I find, and if you want to be added to it, just let me know and I'm happy to add you to it. Okay, a couple more. Trust my intuition and act on my instincts. That's probably the biggest practice that I have. I live my life in a way that a lot of people don't understand. And I wish a lot more people did understand it, because that would mean that they were doing it. And then they would be happier and they would feel more fulfilled and they would be better people because they would be fully living their life. And that is because I know what I'm like supposed to do, and like I know how to live in the rules of the world, and I respect the ones that I cannot get around because it's just like there's too many people that believe them. But when that's not the case and I have a choice in my life, I will live it in the sense that I don't choose it from here. Like, when I do, I'm miserable, and sometimes I do because sometimes I get in a bad habit. But when I'm like am mindful of it, then I will choose my life actions from here. So an example, if you read my post about planning my wedding, it feels like I want two things at one time, and it's been interesting to navigate. So I really value my family, and I want to actually cultivate a better family dynamic in my life. So I want to have a wedding that includes family. However, to include multiple people in an event, you have to plan things because, you know, I live far away these days from most of my family. People have jobs, people have other things going on in life. So it kind of is like one of those things where like you have to play by the rules of time in that situation. However, getting married and like sharing my love with somebody such as Matt, I want to do that in a very like living from here way, and that means like there is no such thing as time and rules and all these things. So that becomes very confusing. So we realized we just need to plan something to celebrate with our family, but we are allowing our heart to lead us to where we will get married and when. I have no idea when it will happen, what will happen, but that's how we're doing it. So that's a very big spiritual practice of mine. You can see it's like literally affecting how I would even plan a wedding, and that was not how I would have planned a wedding back in the day. No, I was once engaged and I had plans out the wazoo for an entire thing, and that's not how it is anymore. Last one, surrounding myself with intentional symbolism. So the last practice I'm bringing up is in my home. Like I already showed you, I have my little card holder. I've got like my diffuser. Oh, I didn't even show you like my crystals. When did I guess whenever I was talking about charging crystals, but I have this little holder. I don't want to dump them out. Okay. So I have things, you know, with a lot of purpose around my home to remind me of like why I have that. One thing, there's so much symbolism that our mind can understand without us realizing that we can understand it. Like that it could come from like ancient times, but like it's so ingrained in our ancestors like practices that it just carries on. I don't know how that all works, but it does. So like this acorn, for example, acorns are a symbol for fertility. So because I'm trying to conceive, I'm putting acorns like randomly everywhere. Bunnies are another one. I wonder why. So yeah, I think that's it. Okay, that was a lot of talking, and if you watched this to the end, I feel like we should have tea or something, because if you were able to listen to all of that, then I would like to know you. And if I do know you, then I'm still offering tea, because it's better having conversations like this, like two-way, rather than me just spilling my beans to the internet and to the world. So yeah, if you made it through, thank you for being here. If you don't mind taking the time to click on the heart and then put anything in the comment below, it will help more people see this video, and it will help people who are on their journey maybe get through it and like find their way, because that's why I put this together. Okay, bye.